Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I am your host, Andrew Davis. And before we really get into this interview and I talk to everybody about what's going on, I do want to remind everyone that you need to support and you need to financially support what you love, whether it is this show, my guests, wrestling in general, or corporate media. I personally do not care as long as you're supporting something you love, because without your support, it doesn't get made. But enough about that, because I have with me professional wrestler Jess Moss. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I am very, very, very excited because you just came off of War Games like a week and a half ago, essentially. Maybe not even a week and a half ago, like 9 days ago. And it was an
Uh,
amazing match.
yeah. Uh, for everybody else, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything about War Games. We're going to talk about that. But I am curious how you got into wrestling because your story is somewhat unique from what I know.
It's definitely different. I mean, I even have my sister behind my laptop just going, me, because she's actually is the reason why I got into wrestling. Um, so back in 2008, I was 13, 14 about, and I didn't want to go to my dad's because my parents were divorced and we still had separated visits and all that. And so my sister was like, "Hey, you want to just, come with me?" And my cousin was there and all that. And she's close with Joe Gacy. And at the time, they were like super close. So we're just like, "Oh, hey, well, let's go see this guy we know." And then after that, it was kind of I kind of got hooked. It was Best of the Best 2008, so I got to see like Lufisto and Mickey Knuckles and Scotty and all that roster, and it just hooked me from there.
So then, fast forward, how did you go from being a fan to getting into the ring? Because that's also interesting. Because you're sort of new, but you're sort of not. And I don't know how to explain it. And I don't know what is kosher to say and what is
I'm
exactly.
not new to the Jersey Philly wrestling scene per se, but to the wrestling aspect of it, yes. um, Basically, I stopped coming to shows for a little bit. Got my own life, did my own thing, stepped away from hanging out with my sister all the time because, I was 18 and didn't want to follow my sister all around and do all that. So, about, I want to say 1920, probably about there, I was like, you know what? I haven't seen this in a while. Let me go check out a show. This is when CZW was at the Skate Zone. And I think it was right around the time it was Danny Havoc's last match when it was him and Alex Colon. So I was like, okay, I definitely got to go to this because, love Danny Havoc, obviously, given what I do now. And I'm friends with Alex. So I was like, all right, cool, let's go to this. And then that's when I started hearing about GCW and going. I went to the last house show was my first GCW show, and I'm being told to say that my niece is the princess of GCW. My niece is actually Brett Lauderdale's daughter. So got asked to come to that show, the house show, and he told me that they were opening up a school. And Homicide was the trainer. Nick was supposed to be the trainer, but he wasn't there yet. So I helped out a couple shows, and then we finally got in the ring and started doing stuff like that. And then once I met Homicide and started rolling around with him, it was just like instantaneous. Like, yes, I'm sticking to this. This is what I'm doing. He'd probably yell at me for doing the death matches, but
So let's even talk about that because obviously Homicide is a very, very, very interesting individual. And he's a great wrestler. He's a great trainer, from what I hear. And what was that like being trained by Homicide? Because obviously Homicide has done everything, whether championships, single matches, lemon juice, man I had. And if anybody knows anything about that, potentially bleach too, potentially. But even tag team stuff as well. So what was that like, really training with him and going up? Because it's both single stuff and technical wrestling, and there's that death match stuff too. And it's a very interesting because you either come out one way or the other with Homicide. You do not come out both.
Yeah. Yes. Well, basically, when I started, it was just me and my friend at the time, who later became Victoria Pop. And then she started kind of dwindling around the time H2O opened up their school, and because it's closer and all that. But I stuck with Dave because clearly I know who he is. I know everything he's done and all that. So I stuck around, and then Declan came, and then this guy Ed came. So it was just the three of us at the time, and being that it was a small group, it was actually like the greatest thing in the world. Like, I couldn't imagine when we started going to H2O and they had these huge classes, which, do your thing. But the small classes, it was great that he got the focus one-on-one with each of us, and we still had plenty of time to do pretty much anything we wanted to learn or anything like that. But with him, it's very fundamental training from day one. You're not even bumping. He's making sure your I can't think of the word, your calisthenics are good. That he wants to make sure you have the stamina and all that before you even think about. And here's my small one. Come here, Sid. Come here. And just making sure that we're actually able to physically do the stuff that we're going to eventually. I think maybe a week or two in, that's when we started bumping. So
yeah, and then let's even dive into H2O.
Very tedious.
So let's even dive into H2O because I know you from H2O more than anything else, and I loved H2O. Everything Matt has done with H2O. So cute, so cute, so cute, so cute. That's all I have to say. I'm so distracted. So distracted. Like,
oh, she's the heartbreaker in this family. Definite heartbreaker.
So adorable. It's so adorable. I cannot wait to have one.
Yes, and I see you. But say that now.
Even to go into H2O, because what was that like coming to H2O? Because Matt Tremont is obviously Matt Tremont. It's deathmatch wrestling. He brought back deathmatch wrestling to the US in a lot of ways. But even more so, I mean, you don't have to be a deathmatch wrestler in H2O. But even
no, you don't, and that's the great thing.
That's what's so interesting, is that it's a mixture. It's not ICW No Holds Bar, where that is a complete deathmatch wrestling company. And while deathmatch wrestling is fun, it's nice to have that mixture. And so what was this like, really coming into that, and then also sort of getting some fundamentals back down and having, coming in at the beginning, I feel, really, with H2O?
Well, fun fact is we actually started coming to H2O, and then maybe a couple training sessions for me, which after, a year break of not really training, I found out I was pregnant with that little one. So I had to spend the next about 8 months just watching. So, yeah.
So what was that like? Because obviously, I mean, you really should not be doing anything in a wrestling ring if you're pregnant. I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything insightful yet. But even to be in that position, because to watch it and see it and to want to get back into the ring, but also realize that you can. I mean, it's tricky. It's obviously, I'm going to say something that's going to come off really, really wrong, but it's a problem that men do not have to deal with in wrestling, to say nicely. I mean, I'm trying to think of the most pleasant way and the most adult way how to say this. Like,
basically, like, I was still there. I still, tried to do as much as possible. with, a big old belly, not training wise, but, I tried to help Matt as much as possible. And, I just tried to hang out and at least watch training and do all that. Oh, and we're joining again. But, yeah, the being pregnant during, it sucked. It did, because, you just want to be in there. But it did give me, the step back that I needed to realize, hey, you really do want to do this. And watching Declan just get as far as he did, even, yeah, I'll call it butthurt. I was very butthurt watching him, but, and I'm losing my train of thought with this one in my lap, but.
I tried, man. I tried to keep it.
Yeah, so to even get further into that too, because obviously you're pregnant 8 months later. Obviously,
This one comes on.
Yes. I'm trying to be an adult here as much as humanly possible, and be as professional as I can be. In so many ways.
Sid, stop.
I love live interviews because anything could happen.
Take my phone. This is gonna happen a lot. I'm sorry. Oh man. So I'm sorry. What was your question again?
So what was this like? No, it's all good. It's all good. It's amazing content. It's absolutely amazing. I love live. Anything could happen live. But what was this like? Because obviously, when you take a step back, questions occur. Do you really want to do this? And I've taken breaks from things. And what was that like? Because you get a different perspective, I feel, when you're watching on the sideline and you're seeing what people are doing. You're seeing a new crop of kids come in to some degree, but you're also seeing even the evolution. Because when was this exactly? What year was all this?
I was pregnant with her. We found out, ironically, on New Year's Day. So I was about 2 months there. So right around Thanksgiving, I got pregnant. So 19, and then she was born in August.
Because obviously COVID we weren't in the COVID era then, but we were starting to get into that COVID era. And so obviously it's also
she was definitely a quarantine baby.
Yeah, so what was this like to really have that? Because that's sort of a pivotal moment, I feel, that because we've seen it in wrestling where people get injured and then they have a year off and then they don't come back, or a woman gets pregnant and then she says, I don't really want to do this, or it might take her a while to want to say, hey, I want to come back for a lot of reasons. And so what was this like, really having, saying, hey, I guess having a internal conflict, for lack of a better word?
I don't want to say it was really an internal conflict. Like, I'd see Declan do his thing and I'm just like, oh, I really can't wait to do this. And I'm sorry. Like watching him, I knew I wanted to do it and all that. It was just a matter of when. But lucky for me, like towards the end of COVID, like when they started opening everything and H2O started doing shows again, they started doing training again. So at least I got to sit in and watch the training. I actually got to help when Rocket and Duncan Aleem and Cecilia Vega came in. I actually got to help with them, like learn their chain and all that. As funny as that sounds, and I'm sorry, the mental image of me helping them still makes me laugh to this day. With a big old belly teaching that chain.
So to even talk about that too, because obviously now, training's opening up and you want to get back in. What was this like to get refamiliarized with wrestling? Because I think people, I don't want to say you forget what you've learned, but you need to, I guess, sort of a quick session or a quick tune-up, for lack of a better word. I'm trying to get like mental images in people's heads a little bit, because if you've been gone for a year, you might need to, have a quick course on the basics, or even get your cardio, something like that.
Oh, my cardio still sucks to this day, and I swear I hope no one tests me on it because it's still terrible. But like getting back in, it's still hard enough to make training. Like I can't now go to training because I don't have a babysitter for her. And so pretty much whenever we could, when she was still tiny enough to sit in a car seat or sit in her stroller and be fine, as long as she was occupied, I was able to at least hop in the ring a little bit. And luckily I had Declan and I had Matt to kind of, I don't want to say a private lesson, but like whenever we were free, we could just go there and kind of retune that muscle memory. It was a struggle enough to like remember, okay, this is how you do this. And oh snap, I forgot about all these bruises. That's how this felt. It definitely sucked getting back, but in the end, it was worth it.
Yeah, and then let's even talk about it because this is one of the things that's interesting about you and Declan is that obviously, Declan has had issues with a few people in wrestling. I think Devin Moore is a good example, and then you were, I think, managing, Declan for a while, and so now this is going on because, and I think people don't realize that a manager is just as important, or even, just somebody on the outside. And so what was that like? Because you were part of a bunch of matches in that fashion. And then also
I
you were
mean,
starting to get back into having a few matches at the same time too. And I felt like your character was evolving. If that makes sense.
it was, but it was still kind of stagnant at that time because it, like at the in the same sense, I was still like finding who I was. Like, did I want to be a character? Did I just want to be myself a little turned up? Um, when the whole dev thing came to play is basically, I think it started to click there because this is a guy me and Declan both grew up watching in the arena. Ironically, sitting across from Matt when before he even debuted in CZW. So it definitely was a struggle to flip the switch of hey, now he's standing across from us rather than watching him in the ring and getting to cheer him on, because I think at the time that we were watching him, he was champ of CZW. You're supposed to, chant and cheer and all that. So it was definitely weird. It was definitely a process and just evolution. In my terms, it brought out I think what it needed to out of me, because it's like, hey, this guy, to no, I'm gonna tell you to fuck off.
So even to go further into this, because obviously him and Declan had some serious matches with each other. Obviously, there was the
Yes.
one up in Worcester, I think that was great, where they were fighting all across and beyond, and I thought that was hilarious. And then Lucky 13 was like, "Screw it, we're gonna have him make this a 4-way," which I thought was great, brilliant, brilliant. And then there was obviously the dog collar match that was involved, and there was a few others. And so, what was this like? Because this is the rivalry that I think got Declan noticed, and I think it got you noticed because you were in a bunch of these matches and involved too and doing certain things in there.
Yeah.
Maybe weren't so nice, to put in in a fun way. But what was this like? Because this was really where I felt the two of you started to come out and started to
Um,
make a move in H2O in a lot of ways.
I want to say thank God I wasn't in Massachusetts because that looked like a shit show. But as for like me, the rivalry definitely got things moving along, and I still think the dog collar match was one of the best in the rivalry. Um, as for me getting noticed out of that, I feel like that more so happened towards the end of the rivalry. Um, Once he turned and started doing, he went into business for himself, and I was just going along for the ride. I think towards the end of that was where I really started to get my shine out of it, because I started getting more involved. And sitting on the sidelines is, it's nice, it's cool, you get to cheer on your person, but you just really want to be the person in there messing the other person up. So I think the end was definitely my shine.
Yeah, I think definitely that's when you started coming out, and then I think you also started really having some interesting matches, which were interesting, and that's that's some barbed wire board matches. You had some, death matches, and those were with Matt, and
Yeah, I was lucky for that first one with Matt.
so let me ask a question because I'm not a wrestler. I have no desire to be a wrestler. It is not what I want to do. It looks like a tough job. It really does. It looks like an exhausting job. It looks like it's a blast and it's cool. And whether you're a heel and you can do certain things, but to even then start adding barbed wire in there and start adding weapons and boards and things that cut. And let's be realistic, Matt is a bleeder and I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know how. I'm purposely tiptoeing here. And so what was this like? Because he's the guy who brought deathmatch wrestling back, and he knows all the ins and outs of it. And you really haven't had much experience prior to this, I feel, if none. And so what
No.
was that like? Because it's kind of terrifying, I would imagine. But you're also in there with one of the best who knows what he's doing.
I think just from the start, like back in 2008 when I started watching, like I said, I got to watch Mickey Knuckles and I got to watch Lufisto. Seeing that, I think right away clicked in my head that death matches were the route I was gonna go. Um, Personally, I would consider myself to have a high pain tolerance, so I was like, okay, I can dabble, but in my head I wasn't gonna go like full force in death matches. And then starting to train with Dave, he kind of puts it in your head like you don't need that. Because obviously you're gonna be trained by one of the best in the world. So for me, it kind of more so turned into my crutch, ironically. Um, After giving birth to the baby and all that, and getting into H2O, me and Matt was not too far into me actually having my singles matches. Like I did, my first one was Dev. I've had a couple, multi-mans with the other kids, but then now here comes Boss trying to test me, and he mentioned barbed wire boards and all that, and I'm just like, all right, so it's like now or never. So yeah, I guess I kind of took it good, huh?
Yeah, so let's even talk about that too, because obviously, you kind of said it was sort of your crutch, but then it kind of has become somewhat of your thing to a degree, and you're an
Yeah.
H2O. And so, what was that like? Because it's kind of funny how life works sometimes, where the thing that we don't want to do, sometimes we become very good at, and sometimes that becomes our profession, and sometimes
Yeah.
things that, you know, we're like, oh man, I don't want to do that, and it's whatever, and then turns out that's where you fall in. So what is that like for you? Because it's kind of funny to some degree. It's an ironic situation.
Luckily, like I said, in my head, I knew I wouldn't dabble, so I knew I was like, at least gonna put my foot in the water at least. But luckily, I pretty much got thrown into the water, and I hate to say it that way, but under 10 matches, I'm getting thrown into barbed wire, I'm getting put through this and all that. Um, yeah, I mean, this
It's,
may sound weird, but I'm kind of grateful for that in a way. It sounds probably terrible, and no normal person would think that. But I'm glad I kind of got to rely on that because I'm a very hard person on myself. I do not take opinions, criticism very well. I'm super hard on myself. So whenever I have a normal match, I kind of seem to second guess myself, think I messed something up, or oh, it was terrible. But yeah, I'll have everybody come to me like, oh, that was awesome, or whatever compliment they want to give me. I beat myself up. But at least with a death match, as long as I'm, coming back a little bloody and stuff like that, at least I kind of feel better about the situation. Because, as
What's going on? Oh, you're back now. You froze for like the last 30 seconds.
Oh my god. Was I at least done talking?
Somewhat. Again, anything can happen live. Anything can happen live, and that's why I love live, because anything can happen. There's been crazy stuff that's happened on this show live, and it's amazing. But even to go further into,
I think that's my cue to tell me to shut up.
What'd you say?
I said I think that's the cue of telling me to shut up. I tend to ramble on.
Oh, believe me, people have rambled on. I've rambled on. Last night I was rambling on with something, and I was cutting a promo in the middle of my interview.
You get that from the stories he rambles.
It was great. On another wrestler who I don't know. Oh, it was epic. It's gonna go absolutely when I put that interview up. It's gonna be fantastic. And the person who I was with thought it was hilarious because it was her dad. So it was very, very funny. It's a very funny. It was Billy Starks I had on last night. So it was.
And I got to follow up after her. Oh my god, terrible.
You're actually after Brian Malonis from Chaotic back in the day, Kingpin Brian Malonis. So and then CPA is on after you, which is crazy. It's a very wrestling themed week this week.
It sounds it.
I got sick of comic people. Let's just put it that way. And so I decided to take a break. But anyway, getting back to this, because I thoroughly enjoyed your match with the Kirks as well. And it's Brandon Kirk and Casey Cattell / Casey Kirk. And it was you and Declan. And that was a crazy match. It's always nice to see people who are in somewhat relationships fight each other and as a team. And couples fighting against other couples. So what was this like? Because it's a very cool match. I think Brandon Kirk is great. I think Casey's great as well. And obviously, I think it was a hell of a match. And it was a fun match. And it was nice to see this because I feel like the Kirks are sort of well established. And at this point, you and Declan were really starting to climb the ladder. And so it was kind of nice to see the next generation come up. And that's how I viewed it, in my opinion.
That's kind of the way it felt. Like it was kind of like the breath of fresh air. I think for the fans more so, that the fact of, okay, it's the Kirks. The Kirks are everywhere right now. So having the couple from H2O come in and kind of have that match, it was definitely, I feel like, a relief. But being in the ring with them, terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And not because they're horrible people. No, they're very good at the job. But that was so nerve-wracking. At least for me. I am a ball of nerves every time. But more so them, because they do have that established name. And we're the new bait coming in. But it was definitely fun.
Yeah, so let me ask you about that, because H2O is a weird promotion in certain ways. And I say this, and obviously at some point I'm going to hopefully get Matt on. So hopefully, he's not going to take this the wrong way when he hears this. But I find
that'll definitely be a podcast. I promise you that.
I think he'll do it if I ask. I really do, because I think he's just fascinating. He's a ball of knowledge from what I know. My favorite
Oh,
match is
definitely.
not an H2O with him. It's with O'Shea Edwards in I think
Oh,
Action of Scenic, where they just decided to fight all over the place, and it was great. It was a great match. But one of the things that I find interesting about H2O is that you get the new kids coming up that nobody's ever heard of. And then you have some
yeah.
well-established people like Mitch Vallon, Jeff Cannonball, Tara Calloway. And then you have people who are climbing up. You got the Kirks, obviously. You got The Office. Colby Carino is another one who's been around for a while. And so what is that like? Because you have everything. You have a bunch of new people in there that nobody's heard anything about. And nothing against them. But Reed Walker is a good example where Reed Walker is brand new. But then you have somebody like
Yeah.
Jeff Cannonball who's been around all over the place. And so what is that like for you? Because now you're in the rings with the Kirks. And obviously there's a lot of wrestling knowledge in that ring. But you're also surrounded by, all the new people and all the veterans. And I would imagine that it's a weird situation. Maybe weird's not the right word, but
It's a little weird, actually. It definitely is.
I'm just curious how that is for you, because I'm just a fan looking at it. I'm like, man, this is kind of cool for me as a fan to watch all this because I get everything.
Yeah. Personally, like having them around, it's having the Cannonball, having Tara, having Mitch, which I actually missed Mitch terribly. But like having all those people, it's nice because they're super nice people outside of the ring. So it's like you can go to them for any question that you need. Like even if you're having a match with another student, they won't hesitate to, hey, does this sound good or does this make sense? They don't hesitate to at least give you that opinion. Um, and even with the students, with everybody being on like their own each individual level, it's still nice to get that because even from the kids, because you're having those new fans come in. Like there's small children out in those crowds now, so it's nice to have that opinion of like the newer generation of wrestling mixed with the old, not the old. Don't need nobody coming after me in the locker room, but the veterans. It's wonderful to have their opinions, especially in my predicament, because I still consider myself like super super new, like still figuring everything out.
But
So it's
you're a little bit in the middle in a lot of ways because you've been around, but you're also not, a 20-year vet in the ring, and it's kind of a weird,
yeah. I mean,
circumstance where
it's the only difference between me and these new kids is I may have outside friendships with these people that doesn't help me in the ring, unfortunately. So you have people like Matt and you have people like Alex and you have this person, that person. Yeah, I may know them from 10 years ago, but that's not helping me. The only thing I can do is just hit them up. Hey, tell me if this was shit.
Fair enough. And then even going further into this, I mean, obviously you and Declan have been working together in a bunch of facets. Obviously you've been with him, I think, with most of his, heavyweight championship matches, and the way he won that belt was absolutely wonderful. It was absolutely wonderful. It was absolutely criminal, and it was brilliant. And so, obviously, and then he's defended that, I think, twice against you. I think Mitch Vallon is another one. I think, Nick Grande was another one. Obviously, Boyne, who's great. And
that was a fantastic match. I don't care anything. That was a fantastic match, and I will say that forever.
And so what was this like? Because a lot of, views were on the two of you at that point. And I know that you were in some death matches also, just tagging with not the title being on the line. And so what was that like? Because this was cool. And I was joking around a lot on Twitter saying, Declan Grant's a national treasure to H2O. And I
did see that. That was yes.
I thought it was pretty funny because Matt actually liked it, and he might have even retweeted it, which I thought was even funnier. Because
What was that after the Chondo match?
I think
I remember
so.
definitely
I
seeing
think
it.
so. So I didn't even see that match live. I saw it on replay because I was just busy, and a lot of stuff was going on in my life. But I saw it. I'm like, oh man, because I saw that Declan won. And I'm like, wait a second, what happened? Because it wasn't even on my radar that would have happened. And nothing against.
And it doesn't help with Twitter either. Everything on Twitter, you've seen the chair riot. You didn't see nothing else.
So I watched the match and I'm like, man, that was entertaining. And then I thought it was a great match. But what was that like? Because this was a great run. And the two of you were front and center and everything that you were doing and every match that you were having. And I love it. And Colby Carino was a great match as well. And so
Yes.
what was that like? Because this was just a lot of fun.
Like I said, just starting out, critical. I don't care what it is. I'm very critical about myself. Declan calls me Jess Cornette half the time because my opinion's out there. But luckily I got to start out with him. So the comfortability was always there, and getting to manage him now in H2O when he's on the road to become champion was a trial. It was definitely a test for me to see if I can do that, be put in that place. And like I already knew, I knew how to wrestle. I know how to do this. Okay, this is solely fans, like the connection between them, which definitely hard. And then once he became champion and hearing the boos and the fuck yous and all that, ironically enough, that's where I was comfortable. Because I think I have RBF terrible. Like I could just, my flat look is bitch face. So that's where it connected. That's where it was easy. All I have to drop is a couple F-bombs and I was goated.
Let's even talk about that too, because obviously, I mean, the two of you are somewhat hated. No, you were pretty hated in how it all went down.
Than him.
but what was that like? Because in wrestling, you know, it's weird because if you're supposed to be hated and you get hated, it's great, and that's your job. And that's the other thing too, is that it's an art to be a bad guy. It's an art to be a heel. And so, what was that like, just to get that heat? Because it's one of the things, and I had the Bushwhackers on a little while ago, and they were speaking about this, and they were speaking about how like people were bringing knives to the ring trying to stab them because they were hated in all these places, and how like people were smashing out windows in their cars. And I mean, we're talking like in the 80s, the 70s, you know, in Puerto Rico, beer bottles being thrown into the ring, and like unsafe environment.
Stories, man.
It's great. I mean, it's all in their book, guys. It's all in their book that's out there on Amazon right now. It's a great book. You could watch the interview too with the author and the Bushwhackers. It was great.
Yeah, I guess I could do that too.
That interview is just pure entertainment because Bushwhacker Luke is just a fantastic human being. But anyway, what is that like? Because it's an art to be hated, and you do it well. It's the nicest thing and the nicest compliment I can give.
I always take that compliment because I feel like that definitely came easier than it does now. Because at least being hated, I don't have to need the connection there. Like you still need a connection to get the boos and all that, but I feel like it's 10 times easier to be hated than liked. Does that make any sense?
It's easier to be Edge than to be John Cena in 2006.
Yeah.
by far, it was an easier job for Edge to do what Edge did than what John Cena did. And not saying in the ring performance was equally difficult for both of them, or easy depending on how you look at it. But the heat that Edge could get was a hell of a lot easier than what John Cena being the babyface in 2006. And so I think that's the analogy I'm going with. If you have a better one, feel free to share it.
I mean, I don't have an analogy, but I mean, at least even growing up around it, I feel like the Philly crowd, if we were in the Philly crowd back, in the early 2000s, oh no, definitely wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't be there. We would have been booed out of the building regardless whether liked or hated. I feel like your crowd definitely plays that part into it too. Like H2O crowd. Oh my god. So easy to get booed. I'm
So
sorry, but it is.
I have a question about that too, actually, because I'm curious because obviously in COVID, a lot of shows didn't have fans, which meant that
Yeah.
Twitter was the audience essentially. But the problem is that if it was pre-taped, you didn't know how it was going to be received. And
Yes.
so you got it after the fact, and you can't really do much about it at that point. But then obviously there were wrestlers. Limitless is a good example of this, where they had wrestlers in the crowd. But again,
Yeah.
that also is not a good representation. It added a little bit of something to it, a little cheering, a little shock factor. And it was nice to see
Yeah.
people in the crowd. But again, it wasn't an accurate representation. But I'm curious how you feel about this, where I feel the crowd is almost another person in the match, where you have one wrestler on one side, you have the ref, you have the other wrestler, and then you have the crowd. And so there's 4 people involved.
Yeah.
And there's a match that actually sort of convinced me of this. It was the Invisible Man match where they had two.
The one in Jersey City.
Yeah. With Bryce with the goggles. And
I this may be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like if it was anybody other than Bryce, it would have been flat. Bryce made that. I'm sorry, but he did.
And what was it? Key Notaro made that match too. The clown wrestler guy. He was in that match.
I'll be honest with you. This was pre-baby. I was probably drunk somewhere. I was there. I was ring crew for GCW at the time, but yeah, we were there like at least 12 hours. You gotta stay busy. He might have been there. I'm pretty sure he was there at some point in that match.
I think he was in that match, and that was hilarious too. And he took the goggles. Oh, it's great. It's great. It's a great match. But again, that's what sold me, because you could see half the crowd was into it, and the other half.
Oh yeah, they were on that balcony. I remember the balcony, and I just remember that whole crowd. It was just like a sea of yeah, and I'm just like, okay, I'm sitting on the stage, just wow. I think that's where it kind of clicked for me too. That you need to at least be in their mind at that point in time.
I make an argument to a bunch of my comic book friends who are writers, and I say, this is how you need to write your comic. You need to get me to this point. If you get me to this point of believing, I'm in, and I'm a customer for life. And the second you do that,
thing with a fan base, definitely.
And so that's the thing that I think that, most people don't understand it until they see it. But I believed in that match. I believed 100% that there is 2 invisible men wrestling, and I still do to this day. But I digress, because there's another match I want to talk about, and that's your match with Mickey Knuckles. And Mickey's been on this show.
Oh.
Mickey scares me. She scares me.
She terrifies me still.
She's scary.
I've been in the ring with her, and she still terrifies me.
So what was that like? Because that's I would imagine that's kind of a bucket list. I think Mickey is an H2O.
Definitely was.
And Mickey is a fighter, to say the least.
Definitely. Whoo. I don't even really know where to start with this question, because there was just so many factors that definitely played into this. Like, obviously, like you said, dream match, bucket list, dream match, whatever synonym you can think for that was definitely like top tier. I want to do this when I know I'm ready, all that. And to hear that I literally got it in my first year, I got one of my dream matches, is absolutely mind blowing to me because I absolutely love Mickey to death. I love everything she's done. Literally, when I'm bored and home, I will sit here and watch Queens of Death matches. That match with Mickey and Lufisto, because I just they're everybody else has, I want to be Sasha Banks, I want to be this person. No, I don't have that. I have Mickey, Knuckles, and Lufisto. So being able to get in there with Mickey was literally mind blowing. I will never want to probably get into a fight with her. I'm lucky it was wrestling, but even just learning from her, like talking about it and doing all that, it was definitely a learning experience because I feel like this even plays back to defining myself because even then I feel like I still didn't know who I was. I still don't to this day, but I feel like it definitely opened my eyes more to that because in my head I am like, I don't want to say a younger version than her, but I feel like at some point I want to follow in her footsteps.
Yeah, what is that
It's-
like? Because Mickey Knuckles is sort of one of the pioneers. Lufisto's another. And there's a
yes.
third one. There's a third one, and I always forget her name. But obviously, when you look at women pioneering deathmatch wrestling, Lufisto and Mickey Knuckles, they pop up.
Yeah.
And so, what is that like? Because obviously, in H2O right now, you have Kennedy Copeland, Sawyer Wreck, you got
Yes.
Masha, Casey Cattell. Am I missing anybody? Because I know I'm missing at least one or two, right?
Around
Also,
H2O, I think they're pretty much the mainstays that come like the revolving door. There's
because
Kennedy. There's yeah. I think you're pretty much there. There may be one or two that come around every so often. Like Tara definitely is always up
yeah,
there too.
Tara was the one I was missing. That's
Okay.
the one. And then you could have Max the Impaler. You could also throw into
Oh,
that
she hasn't
mix.
been around in a while. Oh, thank God. That's another one that terrifies me, but not even in
Max
the
is
bad ways.
scary. I was talking about that match with Brian Malonis. Brian Malonis is a big man, and Max is big too, and that was a
Oh,
hoss fight.
I part of me thinks that she's not around H2O anymore. Um, I just remember seeing like the early H2O and being in the crowd, and I think it was her and Matt. I think had a match. I could be wrong. I probably am, but just watching her and even Maria Manic, I like. Mm-mm. I'm cool. My little tiny butt will stay in the crowd.
Maria hasn't been around in H2O in a long time. I
In
don't even know.
wrestling in a while, and I kind of feel like that kind of sucks.
I had a very brief interaction with Maria Manic, and it was interesting on Twitter. And then I haven't heard anything from her. I've heard
Yeah,
nothing
it
from her.
seems like since the Teddy Hart stuff, like she just disappeared off the face of the earth. Like she did those couple ROH shows, and then that was it.
Again, wrestling is a weird business. It's very similar to
Definitely
comics,
is.
where sometimes people have a 3-4 year run and then they disappear and they're done.
Hmm.
And
I feel
and
like
you don't
that's definitely going to be me, probably.
it's a weird thing, and you see it in podcasting as well. I mean, I started this thing on the live side of this at the start of COVID in March of
Hmm.
2020. Legitimately, so many people came after me, and I knew about 20 people started podcasts. About 3 of them are still around, and
Oh wow.
so obviously, it's one of those things where a lot of people come and go on a lot of things in entertainment, and it's
Hmm.
a weird thing, but that's not what this show is about, because I do want to talk about one more thing, and that is the Hustle and War Games match.
Oof.
And this
Oof.
this is this was comic book 101, where this was
Mhm.
6 months in the making.
Yes.
Apparently, Matt and Kennedy were very close, and
Mhm.
things just started getting interesting between the two of them where things weren't going Kennedy's way. Matt was somewhat saving her, but then he wasn't around doing stuff. And then she slowly, recruited the following, which is Chris Bradley, Kristen Ross, Mouse, who also felt they were pet projects of Matt.
Yeah.
And then they felt they were betrayed, and then they formed their group, and then slowly but surely, the Angels of Death came into play, where I think you first came in, I think Masha or Sawyer came in, and then obviously Casey could tell. I don't think she could have made it that night, but Brandon Kirk stepped in. Which Brandon Kirk did something
Thankfully.
yeah, he did something really smart in that match too, apparently. But that's not the point. But what was this like? Because this was an awesome buildup for 6 months.
I think more so at the start of it, when it first started with Matt and Kennedy, I didn't even think I'd be even part of it. I think we were still honestly heels at the time. So it was just the build, and then when the time came, it was definitely surreal to be a part of it. I didn't think I'd ever be put in that position, especially with the other ladies that were in it. I felt definitely it was a wonderful place to be, obviously, but
So
it was
let me
definitely
ask you a question. So one of the things is that I interview a lot of people, and it's just me. And I interview cool celebrities. I'm a big anime fan. I got to interview John Swayze, who's the voice of Crocodile from One Piece. And sometimes I get the idea of imposter syndrome. And so I don't know if that happens to you, where you're like, I think I'm a good wrestler, but I should not be in the ring with these people. But here I am. I don't know. I don't know if I'm hitting a nerve per se, but like,
I'm the person I to this day. Like, you can ask Matt, I'll go and hang out with him, and I'll just be like, "Well, why are you giving me this stuff? Like, I don't deserve it." I think I'm like bottom of the totem pole, like just starting out, still green, like maybe a week in the training. That's how I still view myself. So when he sits there and like tells me that I've earned it, or I need to start believing myself, I'm no confidence. I don't believe I deserve anything. So it was definitely like a confidence boost. It definitely like lifted my spirits, that's for sure. Um
and then to
yeah.
even go further into this match too. I mean, what was this like? Because obviously, I think Matt started off the match with Mouse. I think, right?
Yeah.
And then I think one of the tag team guys came in. I forgot who's who exactly, which is not a good thing. It's not a good thing, but it's not important overall. And then I think you came in, and then you had your stuff, and that's what I liked about this match is there were moments for everybody in this match. I feel,
Yeah.
and
There was definitely a showcase for everybody.
And so that was really cool about this. And I think this is why NXT does war games. We're having Survivor Series war games because it really does give the ability to showcase off a bunch of different wrestlers. And so what was this like? I mean, the barbed wire bat was funny. I had a bunch of things I could have said. I could have said a bunch of things in that. There's legitimately 14 jokes that popped into my head right as that was going on.
Okay. Now I see where your head's at. Okay.
my head's in a gutter. There's no question about that. It's weird. All these people started following me on Twitter today. And I'm like, this is not a good idea.
Oh my god! After that match, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, like I get like random stuff, and I'm just like, "Who are you? Why are you sending me this?"
I mean. It's
not a horrible
sending me anything. Just all these really top wrestlers have decided to follow me today. I'm like, this is probably not a good idea.
That means you're doing a good job.
It's going to be interesting what happens, especially when they come on my show. It's going to be so interesting. But what was that like? Because that moment was great. And then obviously you're getting beat down, and then every 2 minutes somebody else comes in and everybody's getting their shot. And then it became war games. And
Yeah. It coming out as the second person on Matt's team, definitely it was scary. Especially to know that I'm being followed up by Masha, by Sawyer, by all these girls that are doing fantastic in it right now.
so let me ask you a question. So did you know Brandon Kirk was actually going to come out or no? Because that's I think one of the biggest questions of this match. Not to break kayfabe or anything like that, but everybody was a little shocked that Brandon Kirk came out because
I was shocked.
because I have my opinion on Brandon Kirk because I know Brandon Kirk as a heel. I don't know Brandon Kirk as a hero or an anti-hero, and nothing against Brandon Kirk. I just know him in a certain character, and so that's something that, like, for me was like, wait a second, like I was expecting a heel turn from him.
Somebody. I agree with you. It's hard to let go of the heel Kirks because they were just so good at it. They were so good at that. Excuse me, I had to burp. But I really wasn't ready for him to come out. The music hit and no Casey. So it's like, okay, well, we need a new game plan. And then here he comes, tearing the house down, especially everything with Cruel and ICW with Casey. Well, I think it was what was it, the night before or the night even before that? Oh, she dropped the Kirk name. It was definitely a surprise and a half.
Yeah, no, I thought it was interesting, and then obviously he had his moment, and then there's a lot of stuff that happened in that match. Obviously, Matt asked Kennedy, "Why are you doing this?" He said, "Doesn't even matter. He's going to put it right through a door."
Yeah.
It wasn't even a door; it was a pane of glass.
Yes, I think it was one of those like the sliding doors. Oh. No,
So whoa, and then I think Matt went through the glass, right?
Yeah.
And then
knocked off the first time. Oh.
And then it got even crazier because then obviously, I mean, the entire match, and then Colby Carino went through the flaming table too, and like that was crazy. But that was brilliant that he came out in like a jumpsuit too. I mean, the entire thing was so well planned, and that's what was crazy. And I think they were going to try to put like Matt through the table. They were going to try to put you through the flaming table. I forgot who they were going to put through the table, right?
Yeah, like at least go for somebody that is worth taking out.
And so, what was this like? Because then I think it was you, Masha, and Sawyer pinned Kobe in a lot of ways, and and I don't know if Brandon Kirk was in that. I think he was with Matt at that point.
I think he was tending to Matt at the time.
Because it was a crazy match.
There was so much going on. I couldn't see out of this eye. It was terrible, at least for me.
So what was this like though? Because obviously it was the end of a chapter, and it was, I thought, a great story. I also thought it was a great moment. I thought the fact that it was streamed was cool. I thought it was on Halloween, and so I thought it was a little bit more special too in that regard. Where this could have been just on a regular Monday, but it was on Halloween and it was wrestling, and it was also on later, which was nice too because it wasn't detracting, which I thought was helpful. And I mean, it was a long show though. I'm not gonna lie, it was like 3.5 hours.
It was so long.
It was a little too long. It was a little too long. They should have cut out like a match or two, and I would have been so much happier.
I mean, it's all opinions. The only thing you can do is learn from them.
No. I'm just saying that I had to go to work the next day. So it's like...
Oh, trust me. I had to be up the next morning. I had to be up at 6 a.m.
I had to be up at like 6:30. So I completely sympathize. Let's just say that I cracked up in a monster on the way to my work. And God, that caffeine's helpful. But the whole thing is that what was that like too? Because the match happened, obviously you get the win, and then all you sort of get the hell out of Dodge. And then
Yeah.
the following is dealing with Kennedy at this point. And so that's what I think was really cool too, is that this has now set up a whole nother storyline out of it where the following is not happy. You know, obviously Matt and Kennedy were dealing with things, and it was creating such a very cool moment where it was like master and apprentice, you know, sort of student doesn't like their teacher thing, core of H2O stuff going on, sort of who is, I guess, quote unquote, the baby faces of H2O. And it was a really cool ending because the ending was just as important after the match as the match was.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like there were so many stories that cultivated in it as it was. Like, there was always, I don't want to say a story between us and Ross and Bradley, but we always found ourselves like across from each other at some point along the way. I think we faced Ross and Bradley at least 5 times before that night. So, there's that little story. And then you have Mouse, who used to be part of the Extricated. Okay, well, now we get to learn more about Mouse by himself. And then just everybody's story just coming to one. And then you have the Angels of Death, who, yeah, they may not be H2O people in particular, except for me and Matt, but they all have their stories of how they got here as well. So for them to all join as one, it was a lot of stories, but it was definitely cool to see it all unfold.
Yeah, no, I mean, I loved it, and I don't know every little thing. I mean, I know who Sawyer is, I know who Mosh is,
Yeah,
obviously Kennedy, I know Matt, and obviously I know
that's
the
the great
Turks.
thing too. Even if you don't follow the stories, you're still getting this awesome match.
And so I really enjoyed the fact that, I obviously have been privileged to interview a bunch of these people, and me and Mouse were supposed to do something, so I'm not happy with Mouse. No,
I'll
I'm sure.
stop you for you. I got this.
I think interviewing Mouse would be super interesting because really, really interesting from what I know about him.
Oh, he's
Fascinating.
definitely an interesting character for sure.
Oh, fascinating. And also the fact that they all have history with Matt too, which is crazy. That's the thing too that was wild about that match. And there's just a lot of fun stuff in that match. I also like the fact that, it wasn't quote unquote traditional war games where it wasn't two steel cages next to each other. It was somewhat steel cages next to each other, but there's a lot of room to play around with it, which was nice too.
Yes.
So, but I thought it was cool. I thought the entire concept was cool, and I really just like where they were going with this. And obviously, I think it also set up something with you, Declan, and Matt as well. So I don't know if it already happened or if it's happening next week. I think it's happening next week, right? The 2 grimy best coming 3.
I don't think it's really a thing in particular. I think we just like teaming together.
No. It's labeled as that. That's why I'm making the joke. It's like labeled as like a promo card where
the trio bastardos.
yes. That's where I was going with this. I was like, the graphic is just so great where it's just like there's usually 2, and now there's a 3rd one. Maybe one night only, but I thought it was great because I just like
we've actually tagged before, the 3 of us, and that was just super fun because it was pretty much what's happening Monday is another all-out war. It's all-out war in Spanish because, we have our Spanish players coming in. So we thought it'd be cool to just name it in Spanish. But this isn't our first rodeo with Matt. And it's the most fun we'll ever have. I promise you that.
I mean, it's one of the things is that obviously Matt's the boss. It's his baby, H2O,
Mhm.
everything he's worked for, and it's fun to work with your boss and team up with your
Oh,
boss
so
and fight
much.
your boss, and it's a lot of fun. And obviously Matt Tremont is one of the guys that is deathmatch
Mhm.
wrestling. I mean, when you think of deathmatch wrestling, typically you think of Ricky Shane Page to some degree. You think Mance Warner, John Wayne Murdoch in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. There's some others as well, but
Yeah.
Akira is one of the ones you right now think of. Atticus Kogar,
They're definitely the ones coming up for sure.
and so it's just one of those things where Danny D'Amato is another one you think of with deathmatch wrestling. So what is that like though? Because let's be realistic, this match is going to get pretty hardcore pretty quickly. I mean, we all know it.
Just seeing what Mieto and Cyclope do just for fun at home in a junkyard. It's gonna be brutal. It's for sure gonna be brutal. And then having Jimmy, who isn't new to tagging with them either, it's definitely gonna be interesting to say the least.
Gonna
Because they
be
have their style, we have ours.
it's gonna be the different boy, right? It's gonna be a whole
Uh,
different match. I can tell you that.
Definitely will be.
The best Jimmy Lloyd moment was Jimmy Lloyd at WrestleMania.
Uh,
Have you seen this?
the Hurt Business shirt.
It was one of the funniest things. He's like front and center in like the first
Yeah.
row.
How
And
can you even manage that?
I don't know if I know that Stephanie and Brett are very close. So, and I know that Jimmy Lloyd is, obviously close with Brett because Jimmy Lloyd was at that event in that suite with Brett at one point. But
Yeah.
that wasn't the WrestleMania. That was like the 2 years before.
Yeah.
But I don't know how Jimmy Lloyd pulled that off. But it's the greatest WWE moment ever.
I feel like he just wanders, to be honest with you. He's either
He
laying
does
down somewhere or he's wandering.
Brett just wandered down there, and then they just pulled him off. It's
Nobody
great.
stopped him.
It's great. It's great. It's one of those things. Me and Declan should have done that. We should have just reviewed 2006 with Jimmy Lloyd.
Oh.
That would have been a great, great, great episode. It would have been like 4 hours. Everybody brings a 6-pack.
Oh my god. My battery's running low. I gotta plug her in. Hold on. My outlet doesn't want to work to charge my stuff. You want a bit? I gotta go grab a banana. Hold on.
Banana.
Huh?
Banana.
Would you mind bringing it in? This girl loves her bananas. Oh, here. I'll just eat your one that you left in the living room, child. Here. Sit. There you go.
So obviously, I mean, I'm looking forward to that match. I'm probably gonna watch it while I'm doing an interview. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm probably gonna catch like the first half of that match, and then I'm
I
probably gonna.
don't think it's going to be live. I think it will be uploaded for a later date, probably on one of the underrated episodes.
Even better. Now I
Yeah.
have more time, so now I don't have to worry about that problem. Again, I don't know what's live and what isn't live anymore because
Yeah,
everything
it's
is-
definitely hard to keep up, especially with all the product that H2O is putting out.
yeah. Each show puts out a bunch of stuff, and it's crazy, and like again, it's super interesting, and I miss a bunch of it, and then I'm like, oh wow, this match happened. How did I not know it? But I digress right there. Again, there's so much wrestling out there anyway that it's so hard to keep up.
Especially with the streamings right now with IWTV and now Fight Plus is doing their thing with GCW.
I was
think
speaking with
there's
Billy
spots.
about this. For $160, you can get 70% of the wrestling market. And then if you add Peacock for another $60, you're at $220. You are getting about I think 80% of wrestling is covered
And
for
that's
$220
That's
for
crazy.
a year, which is ludicrous, and it's dirt cheap. And you're getting anything you really want, technically. And I don't even know how it got so cheap to get some wrestling.
It's definitely like super saturated, but that's not technically a bad thing either. I mean, at least you get to pick what you want, but definitely oversaturated.
It's good and bad. I mean, look, I watch Beyond / Wrestling Open, and then I watch H2O when I can, and then I'll watch a WWE pay per view, and then I'm done. And I'm going to be adding some GCW into there. Like maybe I'll watch 2 or 3 GCW events, a month.
Mhm.
I have Fight Plus now, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
But again, I'm not gonna go and watch every single GCW event, and I'm not gonna go watch every single, Super H2O event. It's just there's just not enough time. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, when everybody has a normal life outside of it.
Yeah. This takes up a lot of time, but even to go into that, because I think this raises a really interesting question, is that what is this like for you? Because wrestling is more accessible than it's ever been, and I'm a
Yeah.
strong believer that I think wrestlers need to be on streaming services. I think that if you have the ability to be on NXT and be on NXT once a month, or be on Wrestling Open every month, 4 times a month, I think Wrestling Open for a while might be a better play, or being on one of these events that's always live streamed. And the reason why is because fans interact with you and your name gets out there, and people discover who you are, and you're seen by people from all over the world. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. And maybe it's not an exact perfect example, but even the core of the question, I guess, is, wrestlers, I feel like need to be on streaming services more than ever now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The terrible part is that it's just so hard to get to those points. Like, luckily H2O is on IWTV regularly, but even Wrestle Open, like we have Austin Luke, we have Marcus Mathers on there. You have the ones that get to travel. For me, it's a little harder. So, I mean, personally, I don't see myself getting out to those other companies that stream. But definitely, I agree to the extent of every other wrestler. Streaming is a majority thing now. Even
'Cause
social media. It's if you don't have it, you're not in the loop. Like, how is people going to contact you? You got to stay updated.
I also think getting creative with social media. I mean, I'm doing something very creative for season 4 of my show, and I'm inviting a select group of people into it. And it's a very social media play on a podcast. And I even think getting into opportunities in that nature and understanding it. And I think people are going to be very, interested in what you're doing. And, it's fascinating. I mean, there's a reason why a bunch of people and a bunch of wrestlers are following me now. I may or may not be doing something with Reed Walker tomorrow night. So
he turned on us, man.
He's great. He's absolutely fantastic.
He's definitely talented, I will say that, but his attitude needs to change.
His sponsorship has already paid off for me. I'm sponsoring up at Wrestling Open tomorrow night, essentially, and it's already paid off tremendously. I've gotten so much social media, and I've gotten 9 wrestlers following me. So now I can DM them, and at least 3 of them are going to come on my show, which is nice. And,
well, maybe you sponsoring him will realize that Adonis isn't all that.
Yeah. Maybe he needs a little bit of an attitude adjustment, but that's not the point here.
Yeah.
But even all jokes aside about him and everything, what is that even like though? That because obviously, I mean, just social media I think is key as well, and I even think even if you can't travel and you're pretty close to H2O, if it even if you got to stream twice a month, I mean, even if you're streamed twice a month, it's a big deal because it becomes an event more so than anything else. And I think that's something that a lot of wrestlers aren't getting and they're not understanding. And it's also, it gives the ability for you to interact with your fans. And one of the things is that that's kind of partially the social media play I'm doing with my show in season 4 is that it's a fan interaction, and people will pay money and really enjoy that when they're interacting with people.
I definitely think that plays a big part. Definitely. Like just thinking about how much times have changed and social media has become such a big presence. Again, going back to 2008, wrestlers didn't get booked just based off of what MySpace was around back then. You're not getting booked just solely off of MySpace. Where today you have Twitter and you have all that. You have the GIFs. You have people doing the highlight videos, the crazy highlight videos. Oh my God.
I mean,
And
I booked interviews legitly in tweets. I booked interviews by exchanging tweets, and legitimately I've sent somebody on Twitter my booking link, and we booked an interview live like 3 minutes after their match.
oh wow.
We were just tweeting, and it's that crazy. And people
Yeah.
have,
I mean, you gotta jump on it now too.
and it's like, I mean, I have people fighting for interview space, and it's funny. I was listening to a wrestling space last night, and they mentioned something they didn't mention, saying, "How do I get booked on shows? I have an idea. Why don't you do a bunch of interviews on a bunch of podcasts and get your name out there?"
Yeah.
They didn't mention that at all, and it's a huge deal now. This right here is a part of social media, even though it's somewhat traditional media or alternative media. You don't think that it does get pushed out on social media and doesn't have a social aspect? It absolutely does. And you could do an interview sitting in your house, and you'd be surprised how many people have gotten weird things out of my show. Somebody has a indie movie deal because of my show.
What? Oh, bring it on then.
It's weird. It's very complicated. And a director was like, "Man, that kind of sounds cool." And then they reached out to the person, and there you go. And so it's a very weird thing that my show reaches weird audiences, and I have a very diverse group, and then weird people watch my show, and interesting people watch my show too. So, but I digress right there. Not to tout myself and not to be egotistical, but it's always nice when the reason why people want to be on my show. There's a reason.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing too. You never know who's watching, and honestly, I feel like just social media presence and how to act on social media and all that should be like a class in training nowadays. In all reality,
The two classes that they should teach at WWE, the Performance Center, are the following: how to act on social media and how to manage your money. Those are the two classes they should teach: how to act on social media, how to manage your money, and how to treat a fan in public. And not at a signing, but when you're in Burger King or McDonald's, how should you treat a fan? Because depending on who you are, I hate to say this, but if you're MJF, I expect MJF to tell me to fuck off.
Oh, definitely.
but if you're, I'm trying to think of somebody who's nice. If you're Orange Cassidy, you have to act differently. Or conversely, depending on who you are, maybe your wrestling persona and your personal persona are not connected. So those three classes should be taught in wrestling, and they should be taught in training, and they should be taught in a lot of ways, and they're not, and it's a problem.
Luckily, I hate to bring it back to H2O so much, but that is where I am. Luckily, like, we do have that presence there. Like, if we can't talk to Matt about such a certain situation, like something that happened on Twitter or something like that, like, how do I respond to this that seems not like more so like a gimmick rather than that? We can't ask Matt. We can ask one of the vets. We can ask Chrissy, Tremont's wife, and like, luckily we have that opinion there to help us in those cases. I still agree that should be a class because social media is such a big part of today's wrestling.
It's just one of those things that I think people don't understand. And also, I joke around with wrestlers. I was having a conversation with somebody privately, and we were joking around, and I sent a gift, and he understood that it was a gift. But
Yeah.
like even still, like the reason how I booked Brian Malonis is I said he looks like a husky Ferrari in the ring. And then I sent a gift of a Ferrari like doing like a 180 spin out. It was kind of funny. And he thought it's funny, but I was also saying to myself, this could go bad too. And
Yeah.
I didn't think it was because I thought it wasn't insulting versus he's a big guy. And I think if you call somebody a husky Ferrari, it means you're a big guy and moving fast. So, but again,
Yeah.
it's tricky too because if he all of a sudden
Definitely
snaps,
tricky.
I've had wrestlers snap at me when I said, oh, these three. It was like put up a picture of four wrestlers. I said, oh, that person is fire, and that person somebody snapped at me and said, all these people are fire. And I said, okay, like I'm voicing my opinion as a fan. Like
that's the problem too. A lot of sensitivity has happened.
And but I didn't even say anything wrong. I said I like this girl as fire. That doesn't mean the other three are bad.
But but just because you didn't mention that maybe that one person's favorite wrestler, you're the worst, you're the devil, you're terrible.
And I was just like, okay, like I guess I'm kind of done here. And it was very upsetting. It was very upsetting actually. I was kind of taken aback. And it makes me not want to support that person's promotion they're on. And I haven't. And I will refuse to watch that promotion because of this one person. And their response.
Well, like you said, you need to learn how to, treat your fans.
Yeah, but it is what it is. I think a lot of wrestlers need education, and I think people need to learn that just because you could say something on Twitter doesn't mean you should say it.
Yes, I couldn't agree more there. I don't know how many times I've went to make a comment, like a post or something, and I'm. Maybe I shouldn't.
I mean, there's plenty of
that's
people.
A 10-time thing a day for me.
No. I mean, my Twitter is relatively clean. I've learned a very valuable lesson. I got into a spout with another bunch of people on Twitter wrestling, and got me kicked off Twitter for 7 days, and then tried to cost me a friendship with another wrestler. And I had a great 7 days not being on Twitter. Turns out Twitter realized they were wrong. They were wrong, and it was very unpleasant because people are just not nice, and but it's a problem. And this wasn't even with a wrestler; it was with another wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So I think I like social media for business, but I think it's really a toxic place. Twitter is a toxic place. It's good for business. It's good for business, and that's all I use it for, is that I schedule all my Twitter and all my social media, and then I don't look at Twitter at all.
I'll literally go to find promo pictures of certain people, maybe scroll for like 10 minutes, and then just put it away. I'm done. I'm over. I'll go play some game on my phone or make some graphics or something.
But yeah, no, it's very complicated, and wrestling is whatever. But anyway, I don't want to keep you here all night because obviously you got a lot of stuff going on, and it is. I think it's Wednesday.
Yes, it's Wednesday. Luckily, I don't have work tomorrow, but it is getting close to bedtime for a little one.
So I do want to give you a chance to promote yourself. Where could people find you? Where could people pick stuff up? I think I put the Deathmatch link to Deathmatch Worldwide up in the description up above, because I know that you two have a shirt up there. I think that's you on the shirt, right?
There's the Couple of Bastards shirt, and then it was his original Grimy Bastard logo, which is also the same logo that is on his shorts. And maybe one soon for me. Maybe.
It's because I don't think you guys have a pro wrestling tees, do you?
No, only the Deathmatch Worldwide, and we're slowly but surely working on getting physical t-shirts in hand so we can start selling them at shows. But I like to procrastinate, and I have a million things going on at once. So
yeah, no. Redbubble is the way to go. I'm just saying. I have a Redbubble t-shirt shop. It's fantastic. I love it. I don't want to handle any merch. I don't want to handle merch. I don't. I would rather make less money, but have no.
See, there's a thing too. That's like a whole different topic in its own. The difference between actually having physical merch and an online store. I love Deathmatch Worldwide. I love working with Corey. Corey is the man. Do I feel like we could probably sell more having physical stuff? Yes. Definitely. I definitely think that is a presence too in itself.
Well, I mean, I have a complete digital presence. That's why I have
Yeah.
an online store where I have no merch, because there's no good reason I am not at a show.
Oh,
So
you'd be surprised anymore. These fans have merch now.
no. I have my own stuff, and it's great, and I love it. And I don't want to handle any merch. I'm happy.
No, I don't blame you. I don't. I make Declan shorts. I don't want to make like 300 shirts.
I mean, but then again, on Pro Wrestling Tees, I could get shirts. I could order up to like 400 shirts for like $6 a shirt and sell them for
Yeah.
20. Or I could actually probably get it for cheaper. I bought 25 shirts at $6 a shirt. So, and I could sell those shirts for 20, 25 bucks. So the margins are there. I just don't want to carry merch, and I don't want to spend enough about that. I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself. So Deathmatch Worldwide, look for Declan Grant. I know that much, but where else could people find you?
I'm terrible with remembering my handles. I get hit in the head a lot, but I am on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and I'm sure if you try hard enough, you can find me. I'm not that hard to find. I think it's just Jess Moss everything. I know on Instagram I am Infamous. That's a story in its own about that name, but we won't. Maybe for another podcast.
Oh, there's so many jokes I can make. So many jokes. But I'm not gonna even.
I mean, shortened version, Larry Legend gave it to me when I first started coming around, and it just stuck. The infamous Jess Moss, he started calling me, and he just shortened it the Infamous. So
I don't know you that well, so I'm being very, very keeping my tongue on a short leash is a nice way to put it.
I'm vulgar brained as well. I'm probably worse than most men.
No. I'm keeping my tongue on a leash for a reason, because I go deep and I go hard, and my friends know that very well, and a few other people in Austin know that very well as well. So if you ask the right people, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So.
I'll be honest with you. I stopped listening after you said deep and hard, and I couldn't listen because I was just laughing.
There's so many things I could say, so little time. Yeah, you know exactly where I'm going with this now, don't you?
Yep.
Going right into it completely. But before I get you and me both canceled here, because I am probably gonna get canceled, but I'm cancel proof. They tried and they failed. Anyway, it's amazing. It's amazing. But I'm gonna just promote myself really quickly, and I'm gonna say this: you have to support indie, and what that means is you have to go see people at wrestling shows. In all seriousness, you have to buy tickets. You have to watch wrestling. You should watch it legally. That sounds weird to say, but it's not that expensive. IWTV and GCW are $5 a month, and then it's $100 for the year for IWTV. It's $5 for Fight. So you got to watch that legally, and you should be tweeting at people and engaging with them, whether you're hashtagging or @symboling them on Twitter. It does make a big difference, and it does change their perception and everything that's going on. And most times fans and wrestlers will interact with you. It happens all the time. Furthermore, you should be buying their merch if they have merch. And if you can sponsor them at events, you should be sponsoring them at events if you can, because it does make a difference and it is a big deal. And I guarantee you that if you sponsor a wrestler and you ask them for an interview or something, or for a promo, they might do it because, well, they'll be thankful enough. And so it's one of those things that I'm sure that, that's something just to keep out in mind. And it's just a good thing to do if you want things to continue. About me, though, I do have a Redbubble t-shirt. This is my t-shirt, everybody, really quickly. It's making fun of Taco Bell, Gundam, the most interesting man in the world, and Fallout. So you can get that in 16 different colors. Again, I love Redbubble. It's awesome. That's my design. I have a few more coming out next year. I like doing food and anime. It's kind of my thing. and I like making fun of stuff. I have a few ideas that are going to be fun. And again, you can choose the color, shirt size, whatever you need. Redbubble, links in the description above, as well as you can buy me a coffee if you so choose. A lot of cool stuff there. Or if you want to buy ad space on my show, that is also open. And I got some cool stuff coming out soon enough, dealing with comic book investing. So that's something that I got coming, a whole class on that. So that's cool. And again, all my social media is down below. It's Pop Anime Comics, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So that's everything I got going on. But that's about me. Quick, simple, done. And I'm going to give you the final word.
Oh, that was a mouthful.
Oh my God. There's so many things I could say in response to that too. But you just walked right into that.
We're terrible together. This is just what it is. We're just terrible together.
Next week's not going to be better. Next week is not going to be better. It's going to be worse. You know why it's going to be worse, right?
Oh, I've heard. Oh, don't bring up anything we've talked about because I guarantee he'll trash me in every single way he can. He'll probably be sitting on my couch doing it, honestly.
So just to keep everybody into the loop a little bit, I didn't actually build the interview shell yet. So Declan's coming on next week. I think he's coming on the 16th. So it's gonna be cool.
That's what he said, and I, child, don't tickle me. You get to see the father of this lovely thing.
Maybe I'll see if I could bring on Jimmy Lloyd. That'll be really fun. Jimmy Lloyd shows up. Like in the middle of the interview, Jimmy Lloyd will just show up. He'll just walk in like.
Oh, said no. Well, I mean, if it's on while Declan's on, I hope not, because that means he's in my house.
Yeah.
That'd be really funny. But anyway, you can have the final word. You can have the final word. So.
I think she's taking it for me. Well, I'll just say thank you for enjoying H2O. Thank you for supporting independent wrestling. Find me on all social medias, and my child's gonna oversing me right now.
Oh, your child is adorable, and I don't think I could top your child's cuteness. So that is a perfect place to wrap it up, everybody. And so that is a wrap.